Well. It's Wednesday. It's Tuesday. I used to do this on Wednesday. It's Tuesday, September 10th, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm Bob Harris. This is the Audible YouTube channel, and it's time to go on the hot seat. But first, footballguys.com. That's the website. I appreciate you guys joining me here now every Tuesday. It used to be Wednesdays, now Tuesdays at this time. Also, Saturdays are coming back to 11 a.m. instead of the former noontime hours. It'll be 11 a.m. the Ask Me Anything live stream. So hit the subscribe button, the notification bell if you haven't already done those things. If you've accomplished those YouTube tasks, the next step, like us or not, you just hit a button. So it's my first on the hot seat show for football guys. And who do I bring on? The best. One of my favorite guests of all times, Mike Fiala, from DLF and what is it? I want to say the letters right, Mike.
JWB.
JWB Fantasy Football. And he's just a great all-around guy. He's also the producer of the SFB Podathon. You know him as Daddy's Home on the X device. I know him as Mike Fiala also. Mike, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, buddy. I feel like, what is this now? Twice in a week we get to hang out and talk football. What's better than that?
Nothing better. And seeing some of our old friends in the chat from my previous life in this. I used to do this on the Football Diehards channel. Happy to be here now. We'll take your questions over the course of the evening as well. But we're going to talk some waiver wire stuff. First of all, let's start out with I'm looking for my panic button. I don't have one of those, and nobody else should either. So let's talk a little bit about the panic that sets in for fantasy managers after they go 0-1 after a volatile start to a season.
Yeah, I think that this is really a great opportunity for all of us to take a look at what is real and what is fiction. I mean, you have a lot of opportunity to go through kind of past history and figure out what are we looking at. Like, for example, Mark Andrews is a great example of someone who has never performed well against his opponent. They focus on him. Their game plan is to shut down Mark Andrews. They did that. Isaiah likely went off. You're talking week 1, Thursday night. These are panics that you want to take advantage of. But you want to make sure that you're not going too heavy in. You want to make sure that you're taking advantage in the right way. But that's what we're going to talk about tonight is who are the guys we should panic about and who are the guys we should be buying as quickly as possible before people realize they're still the guy you ranked earlier in the season.
Right. That is the key, especially like on a guy like Andrews, where it has been. The Chiefs are like 20 yards a game and no touchdowns over the last 5 games. They clearly think he's a dangerous threat. Talking to Matt Waldman, Football Guy's colleague and the rookie scouting portfolio author earlier this week, and he was watching the film and noticed a lot of double coverage also for Mark Andrews. So, and look, there's going to be 3 pieces there. And so that's the other thing we're going to do. We're going to chase that flash in the pan. I think Isaiah Likely, though, is not a flash in the pan. I think Isaiah Likely, we've heard the drumbeat all offseason long that he's going to have a legitimate role. They ended up lining up in 2 tight end sets over half the time. That's up from like about 10% of the time last year. How interested are you in Isaiah Likely? How much are you willing to spend to land him on your roster? What portion of your fab budget?
Man, if I have Isaiah Likely on the waiver wire, he is almost an all-in play for me. I think one of the big things when you look at fab in particular is people start getting cheap. And what you're going to do is you're going to nickel and dime yourself into these second-rate players that you're not even going to want on your roster in 5 weeks or so. But Isaiah Likely, and Bob, if you remember, we're on Sirius XM. We talked about him in the tight end preview show, right, where I said he's a guy I'm picking up everywhere because he not only has standalone value, but he has a chance to be the overall tight end 1 if anything were to happen to Andrews. And we have seen durability issues from the past, and he's working off of a car crash that just happened in August. So in reality, Isaiah Likely is a guy I have to have. I want you gauging your league, figure out how they normally bid, go back and look at history. But I am at the point where I will go all in for a player like Isaiah Likely, who's a difference maker, rather than picking up 5 bye-week fill-ins. I'd rather just grab those after waivers run.
And as Sigmund Bloom said recently on an episode of The Audible, if something were to happen to Mark Andrews, you've got a top 5 tight end and Likely sitting there, but a playable asset the rest of the time. And if you're in premium tight end leagues, it's nuts. And I wrote about him in the Fantasy Notebook. You can find it on the Football Guys website every week. 2 weeks ago, and I write about 6 or 7 guys every week, right? That a backup tight end made it to the Fantasy Notebook tells you. I mean, there's a little bit of a vibe here. I still think that, Taysom Hill's worth a weekly dollar cost. you are going to tell me I'm stupid again.
No, I'm not. Taysom Hill's actually a guy that I'm grabbing everywhere. Again, now Taysom Hill, you're going to go on a little cheaper. He didn't go off this week. So if he's still on your waiver wire, clearly your league mates don't value him. So you're going to try to get him on the cheap. A guy like that, a Swiss Army knife, is someone we want to play. And New Orleans is a situation that we can really take advantage of when you're talking about Chris Olave, when you're talking about Taysom Hill, because the game script was so wonky. I mean, no one expected New Orleans to be up as big as they were, as early as they were. Obviously, Kamara went off. They gave Kamara rest. Jamal Williams, old friend Jamal Williams from the Lions, went off. It was a situation where you can't gauge any usage off of that game script, but what you can do is take advantage of people who are nervous about that situation. And Olave and Taysom Hill are guys that I'm looking at right now and saying things are going to get better. Go grab them. If Taysom Hill's off your waiver wire, very small bid should land him at this point.
Yeah, I think the number that I was looking at, Tristan Cockcroft from ESPN threw this number out a little while ago, and I think it is fascinating. Taysom Hill, he finished the tight end 12 last year, which is pretty damn good. So if you're out there and you were drafting guys like down at the tail end, Mike Gesicki, for example, or other players in hopes of landing something, Mike Fiala and I have a history with Mike Gesicki. We'll discuss that at some point. But in the past 2 seasons, neither of which featured Taysom Hill making a start at quarterback, he had a combined 20 rushing attempts and targets, resulting in 8 touchdowns in goal-to-go situations. You know who had more than that at the tight end position? Travis Kelce, 26 and 11. Nobody else, right? So, like, if you're taking a weekly dart toss, you think Cole Kmet's going to be your guy, maybe Taysom Hill will have more fantastic opportunities. So, like, I feel like we started this backwards, like started at the tight end position, the lowliest, but like it seems like your lane. Let's go ahead and look at some of the other tight ends. There was one that was really interesting to me. Everybody who drafted Luke Musgrave is in a little bit of an uproar right now because Tucker Kraft dominated the playing time, the routes run, the production. What do we think is going to happen here? Was that a 1 week only thing, or do we think this is a trend?
I think it's a mess. I think that when you look at it, Musgrave came out early, was getting targeted early, and then all of a sudden it became the Tucker Kraft show. On top of that, now you're talking about Malik Willis getting the starts. Right. I want nothing to do with really much of this offense for the next 4 weeks. So the good thing that we have at the moment is we have the, time. We have the benefit of time to take a look at usage and snap share while Willis is in the game. You're not going to want to play either right now. If someone picks up Tucker Kraft, they're going to get frustrated and drop him in 2 weeks. So what I want you to do is I want you to watch the snap share, and I want you to watch the routes run, and I want you to focus on that for the next couple of weeks. Neither of them are going to be playable. No way they're coming off my bench. But what concerns me about, Brad, I am a Tucker Kraft guy, so I'm with you in a way. But what concerns me is the early uses of Musgrave, and I actually don't have a good reason why they flipped the script, and that's what makes me nervous at this point.
It's kind of interesting that Tucker Kraft was the guy coming off the injury over the course of the offseason, right? At a torn pec. And so, and just another note there, and we are correct, and we're not going to try to dig too deep into this receiving core. We might not want to scratch the surface for the next couple of weeks with Malik Willis in there. But I wanted to just highlight the way the wide receiving core played out, because I talked to Rob Domofsky from ESPN like last week heading into the game. We were kind of trying to grill him on the pecking order at wideout. I thought he nailed it. He said, Jaden Reed is going to be the jack of all trades, athletic, jet sweep guy. Romeo Doubs is going to be the go-to guy. And Christian Watson is going to be the big play guy. They have three targets in the end zone for Christian Watson. It would be nice if he caught all of them, but I think this offense is going to be fine once we get Jordan Love back. But are there any pieces beyond that you'd like to stash on your roster? I know we had high hopes for Dontavian Wicks. Maybe people drafted him. If people are dropping him, thinking it's like a no-go. Are there any there? Is he somebody you might be willing to pick up if he gets dropped?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on how deep your league is. If you took a look at the game, I mean, if he could catch, which we know he can, we've seen him do it in the past, his stats would look significantly different. He looked like a guy who was an option in the passing game. I think when you take a look at, in particular, look at Dontavian Wicks compared to Jaden Reed. When you look at what happened with Jaden Reed, his stats, Bob, look amazing. You and I both know we watched the game. He went an untouched on an end around and then had a broken play. That's what made his week. And I'm not saying I don't love Jaden Reed. I'm not, no shade towards him. But the flip was actually true with Dontavian Wicks. made a couple drops, got in his head, have the yips, but he was getting some down the field targets. You talk about flipping a couple plays, and their stats are a lot closer than you would think. Now, Dontavian Wicks was never a play for you if you're not in the deepest of leagues. I'm talking 35 plus man rosters. So if you're not in one of those, just ignore all of this. Dontavian Wicks is never going to be a guy you're going to be comfortable starting unless you're really scrubbing the bottom of the barrel for targets. But any target in this offense that are going to be, medium to down the field, which Dontavian Wicks will be, you could get a couple of weeks out of them. So, take a look at them and say, hey, if I need a very, very end of the bench stash, I'm looking at them. But 30 plus man leagues only.
Yeah, I hear you. Just quickly before this gets out of my view here, this is not a Sig show. This is not a Sig and C show. This is a Harris show. So I am part of the Audible channel now too. You're going to have to deal with it. I'm a really nice guy, I swear. No, I'm not. It's not true. It's a total lie. Ask Fiala. He'll tell you. But I'll be here every Tuesday doing this at 7 p.m. Eastern time on the hot seat. I'll be bringing on an analyst that I find fascinating or knowledgeable, or that I feel like the wider audience needs a good little introduction to. And we'll just sit here and chop it up. On Tuesdays, we'll focus a lot on the waiver wire, but we'll take your questions. And I do see your questions coming in, and we'll get to those. I've got them saved so we can come back around to them. But that's the plan here. And then I'll be here solo on Saturdays, just taking questions, talking lineups, and do whatever you want to do. So, and if you don't know, I'm Bob Harris. Hi, I'm the new guy at Football Guys this year. How's it going, everybody? Happy to meet you. And I talked to Sig a little earlier. He is like toward the hurricane zone. So keep good thoughts for him in the coming days as Hurricane Francis rolls his way. All right, so we've kind of rolled through the tight ends, or have we? Is it like any interest in the Foster Moreaus of the world? Saints offense. What do we think about that game?
Nothing. We think nothing. I mean, we think that Carolina is horrific, and all we're going to take from that game is play everybody against the Carolina Panthers. They are ugly. Bottom of the barrel, ugly as can be. So this is not a game we're going to look at and say, oh, this is the way it's going to be. I think Juwan Johnson is still worth rostering, but not Foster Moreau.
I think we're going to move into the wide receivers now. So let's just start with this question because I think it's a pretty easy call here. Drop DeAndre Hopkins. So here was the thing. Nate Yonke at Pro Football Focus noticed this. I read it in his report. You guys should read that every week. It's a great thing at PFF. He wasn't even working with the first team in warmups. He's got a torn MCL. I mean, that's probably not going to heal on its own. He's trying to gut it out, but we saw what Will Levis can be. Brian Callahan would like us to know that if he had just punted the ball on 1st and 10 every time, he probably would have won this football game. So that should tell you what we think about this receiving core. I was a little bit in on Calvin Ridley this week. He led the team in receiving, but it was a very low bar. Are you dropping Hopkins like a hot tater?
I'm not dropping him. I mean, in reality, we've seen what he can become. He has those arrogant hands. He's still a good player. What I'm doing is I'm waiting for DeAndre Hopkins to get healthy and have a big week, and I am trading him on his name value just because I don't love anything about this offense. There's not a Titan that I can think of that I'm like, let me get him on my team. There is no excitement for this offense, but DeAndre Hopkins is going to pop. And remember, most of the people that you play with aren't watching this show, aren't deep diving stats. So what they're doing is going off name value. And you're going to go ahead and trade DeAndre Hopkins off his first big week as quickly as possible. So I'm not dropping him like a hot potato, Bob, but I am trading him like a hot potato with the first sign of life.
You've been doing deals all day now, like catching your panicking league mates and taking advantage of them, haven't you been?
Oh, that's all I do. I mean, realistically, I'm looking at everybody who is taking week one as being, gospel, and I am taking full advantage of that, whether it's buying Sam Laporta, Joe Burrow. I am all over the map just trying to pick up guys that people think are worse than they expected. I want to deal with the motion, and the best time to do that is 24 hours after the scores have posted.
For sure. Divorce the emotion from all your processes, people. I don't want to say I'm emotionless because obviously I'm not. But when I'm making decisions, it turns out the best ones I make are not made in the heat of a moment, of any moment for that matter. So I try to do that. We're going to talk about those Indianapolis Colts wide receivers. So let's talk about this. It was an interesting takeaway. The A.D. Mitchell, that he was wide open on two TDs. He was overthrown. Looked like one. Maybe it wasn't as bad a throw. Maybe he was held up a little bit by the defender. But either way, same result. What do you think about between he and Alec Pierce? Who's of interest to you there?
Adonai Mitchell, he's far more talented of a player. Alex Pierce is a burner. So I think this is very clearly a case of either box score or film and like gaming collection. So, aptly points out Adonai Mitchell was running great routes. He looked good out there. I don't love either player, and we already know that Anthony Richardson is a project. Let's not forget he has not played many games in the NFL and was a project coming out of Florida. So we're not looking at a finished product here, but what you see is a cannon of an arm, an offense that's going to run a lot of plays. But Adonai Mitchell, out of those two, is the guy that we're looking at. What I really took away from this game, though, was the peppering of targets of Michael Pittman and how many good days are to come moving forward.
I think I'd agree with that. And I watched at the end of that game, you saw a lot of disappointed Colts on the sidelines, Jonathan Taylor, Richardson, all those. Shane Steichen was not one of those disappointed people on. I mean, he would have liked to win, but he can see what's coming, right? And I think if you're watching Anthony Richardson, look, I cannot watch him through an objective eye. I say this often. If he is a nail, I am the hammer. I almost had to sorry Joe right there, didn't I? Almost had to.
That was close.
Almost let one. I was like, close. Yeah. So I'm all in on this. This is through extensive conversations with Matt Waldman, who really sold me on this. Prior to the, just after the draft, saying, look, he's a better passer than people are giving him credit for. And then I heard those same lines parroted by the GM of the Colts, by Chris Ballard. And I think they see it like that. We'll see if it turns out like that. He's got to complete more than 9 passes. I get it. But with that rushing upside, he and Jaden Daniels can run day long. And I don't care how many passes they complete. I would like a few more long shots from Jaden Daniels. But that's just a little minor complaint.
My favorite thing, Bob, is when people start talking about whether a player is good when they're talking fantasy. If you all want to talk NFL, I will talk for hours about the NFL, but I want to switch. And if you're going to talk about fantasy, I genuinely do not care if a player is good. I want to be completely clear about that. They don't have to be good. They have to be productive. And what these rushing quarterbacks are, Jaden Daniels and Anthony Richardson, were not good this week, but they sure were productive. Enjoy the 30 points.
Right. It was the top three. It was 3 and 5, quarterback 3 and 5 this week.
Yeah.
And don't think that's not going to happen to get a fair amount. The Rams wide receivers, we've got targets of opportunity here with Puka Nacua going on IR. Look, this is something we're going to have to talk about at some point too. We've got situations where, like last year, I was take locked on Cooper Kupp. Despite the fact that he was hurt all of August, I would not dial back. You couldn't make me dial off he's wide receiver 1. Well, I'm going to say Sunday night suggested that probably he could have been had he not had that issue. But here we are in the same boat with Puka Nacua. Also, Christian McCaffrey, same kind of boat, right? But anyway, I digress. Great video out there by Grant Cohen, who he's a little bit of a pot stirrer for SI.com on the whole Christian McCaffrey thing. He was asking the questions on Saturday. Listen, McCaffrey injury dates back to last year. He had a whole offseason to rest it, and a whole August. Why isn't it better? It's fair questions. We should be asking ourselves these questions. But anyway, same with Puka, same with Cooper Kupp last year. Puka's out. Demarcus Robinson had a really strong finish last year. Tyler Johnson got a chance here. What are the preferred targets here?
For me, I'm actually leaning Tyler Johnson. I think that what I saw from him with the 7 targets, 5 catches, 79 yards is more sustainable than what I think you're going to get for Demarcus Robinson, which is going to be big plays, hit or miss. But what we've talked about, and when we talk about this Rams offense, and we talk about it often, it is a funnel. It is a 2-person funnel when Puka is healthy and when Cooper Kupp is healthy. It is a 1-person funnel when they're not. So I want to be 100% clear that everything is going to go to Cooper Kupp. 21 targets is expected now. I mean, this is what we're going to get for Cooper Kupp, who right now in redraft, you have to believe is right there with Tyreek Hill as the wide receiver 1 in redraft. So everybody else is picking up scraps. So what I'm trying to look for is sustainability, because when you talk about big plays, similar we talked about with Adonai Mitchell, you want multiple opportunities. I think Tyler Johnson's going to be the one getting that. I think both are worth a look. And I love the Whittington call, Brad. In Dynasty, I loved it even before the Puka Nacua injury. I love the fact they made a play for him to get him the ball. So there was a lot that you like about Whittington, maybe not in redraft, but in Dynasty for sure. But if I'm going redraft, obviously Cooper Kupp first and foremost, the utmost target. That's what you want. But then after that, it goes Tyler Johnson and Demarcus Robinson in that order for me.
If you're just dialing up here and you just showed up, this is the hot seat. It's going to be on every Tuesday, 7 p.m. I know there's no Sig, no Cease. It's me, Bob Harris. Those guys are fine with me being here. This is the whole idea behind this. I'm the new guy at Football Guys. And I did a lot of stuff over the offseason. If you didn't catch it, go check it out. And I'll have a daily podcast. Check that out as well. The Daily Update podcast comes out at 5:30 every morning. 10-minute daily dose of news and information. The kind of stuff just to wake up to and go, oh, gee, I know something now. Even if it's not great. No, it'll be fantastic. Trust me on that. You can find my fantasy notebook there every week. My in and out column. Don't read week one. It was a disaster. I'm like sorting through the wreckage still. Brutal week one for everyone, I think. But I hope you join me here every Tuesday at 7 p.m. with some of the greats of the industry. Maybe some people that you haven't been that familiar with up to this point. People like Mike Fiala. You can follow him on the X device at Daddy's Home. One of my favorite people in the whole business. Does great work at DLF. And just can't get enough of him. I invite him on every damn thing. Also, you can hear me on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio pretty much every darn day. It's hard to miss me. Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You'll find me at 10 p.m. Eastern time. Saturdays from 8 to 11 on NFL Radio and the Fantasy Channel. It's a simulcast, people. That's a new thing the kids invented. And also on Sundays, I'm on the pregame show from 11 to 1. So check me out on Sirius XM as well. And I'll be here on Saturdays answering your lineup questions. All right, we talked about a couple wide receivers. I see some comments in the chat. Devon Vele. I mean, I feel like this is a bridge too far. Tell me it's not.
It is. I think when you look at Vele, one of the things you have to be aware of with Bo Nix, and we knew this about him coming out of college, is that his average depth of target is going to be almost in the negatives. He does not throw the ball downfield. So while you love the amount of targets Vele got, obviously we all saw that he was getting peppered with targets. It's not something that's going to result in big plays. It's not something that's going to play out. And what I don't like doing in an offense like this, when you look at the Broncos, is relying on that level of target week in and week out. I mean, when you talk about what Denver did, the amount they threw, to throw 42 times and to get 138 yards, I can't explain how embarrassing that is.
The fewest yards and the most attempts, I think, ever.
Wild, right? So what you're talking about is that Devon Vele got the same amount of targets as Josh Reynolds and got less than Cortland Sutton. Jaleel McLaughlin got 5 coming out of the backfield. This is not an offense that I think you're going to be in love with. And I think realistically, for him to go 8 for 8, he only picked up 39 yards. Let's be clear. While the 11.9 points feels good in PPR, I'm not betting on that. He's not a guy that I'm investing heavily in at all.
I'm feeling like the that average depth of target, negative yardage average depth of target is going to play into my Jaleel McLaughlin shares hands in big time at some point. Didn't this week? I get it, people. Doesn't work every week, but I'm here for it. I'm ready to get some of it. But we're gonna get to your questions. I see them piling up here. I'm bringing some in. We want to run through some more of these free agents first. I think we covered most of the receivers. Greg Dortch, I think people have a little bit of interest in the human Dortch. Do you share in that?
I almost have to, being friends with Laquan Jones. He will not shut up about this guy. Who
just ate his first strawberry. I don't listen to him.
He did. It was the weirdest thing, Bob. I have no idea what Marvin Harrison did to Kyler Murray to make him this angry, but my Lord, was that the strangest thing I've ever seen. Dortch getting 8 targets, Marvin Harrison getting 3. And if you take a look at the all-22, how often that man was open.
Right.
And they didn't even, not that they didn't look at him, they didn't even look to his side. Like Kyler went full Mean Girls and said, you can't sit with us, and just threw to Dortch. Now, what we have to be careful of with Greg Dortch is there's a lot of things about him. He's 5'7". Number one, he's not going to go over the top in these goal line situations. So again, a volume dependent play. I like the skill. I just don't know that this is going to play out to be fantasy gold. I think you're going to see a lot more heading to Trey McBride, eventually Marvin Harrison. And honestly, when you talk about cheapness, and the guy we're not talking about, if I'm going to pick up somebody based on cost, it's Michael Wilson is the play in Arizona for your deep play over Greg Dortch, because he's cheaper and just as valuable, in my opinion.
It's so funny. My Sirius XM co-host on the pregame show, Jeff Mance, was all about him coming out of the draft. This is the guy. This is the guy. And so, like, I kept an eye on him. I thought it was pretty impressive rookie season until he got beat to heck. and then it was not so great. So I don't know. But I am kind of with you. I think there's a little bit of upside here in this offense. And by the way, this offense late last season was on fire. The last 4 weeks last season, I was hoping they'd pick up where they left off. They didn't quite. But they were averaging over 414 yards per game. They're one of the top teams in the red zone conversion rate. So there's something to like here. And someone also do I get an endorsement on this by buying the expected amount? Like Fiella's got his whiskey glass. I've got the coffee mug. That tells you a lot about it. Keep the questions coming in, by the way, people. I see them coming in and I am saving them. So when we get to them, we will get to them. Any other receivers that I haven't mentioned here that kind of catch your eye, are you into Wan'Dale Robinson? Anybody?
I mean, Wan'Dale, you kind of have to like. He's again going to be a volume guy. I think New York can't be worse than they were. I think you're still hoping that Drew Lock takes over this role. Daniel Jones looked absolutely horrific. Absolutely horrific. But Wan'Dale is a talented guy. But again, you're going to get frustrated with them. So there's really not a lot. I think when you talk about maybe not as deep as sleepers, obviously Shaheed and Brandon Cook showed out. You probably should have already been rostering them, but if not, both are valuable pickups. Alan Lazard, absolutely not. This is not a guy that I'm going to trust trouble. This is someone that is fool's gold. Again, I think Aaron Rodgers was doing his buddy a solid when they were already out of the game. There was no point to any of us that were watching Monday Night Football. I don't think there was a single time within that football game, save for the first 5 minutes, where you actually thought that the Jets were going to win the football game. This was a lost cause, and I think
there was like a minute.
There was a minute at the very beginning, but overall, Alan Lazard getting 9 targets isn't going to happen. Garrett Wilson getting 11, I think absolutely will. I think Breece Hall is going to continue, but what I think you're going to see is a work in of Tyler Conklin a lot more. I mean, they really, really shrunk their target share into a small amount of people. I think you're going to see Big Mike Williams start working back into the offense, and when he does, I think Alan Lazard will be an afterthought.
I would agree with that 100%, and I think that's going to be the issue there. What about Jalen McMillan?
I love targets out of the backfield. I love the fact that he got 15 opportunities to touch the ball. Like we talked about, I don't love this offense. I truly don't. But what I saw scares me about Javonte Williams only getting 8 carries. I don't love that. I think that, Jalen McLaughlin at cost is probably the guy. And I think realistically, I'm sorry.
McMillan. I'm sorry.
You went McMillan. I went McLaughlin. My goodness. We can't have Jalen MC.
I'm the McLaughlin stand around here. I'm saying, wait a minute, he's stealing my thunder.
Yeah. Oh no, Jalen McMillan. Sorry, I heard McLaughlin. That's my bad. No, absolutely. Why are you going to buy into what has been? I mean, didn't we do this with Trey Palmer already? The third option in the Tampa Bay offense is not valuable.
Mayfield's throwing 4 touchdowns a game. What do we care?
Yeah, and he's throwing them to the guys he's going to throw them to every single time, which is Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. No, I don't want the third option. I think those two are going to split between Trey Palmer and Jalen McMillan, and neither of them will have actual value.
I would agree. It's Evans and Godwin. Godwin looks like he's going to be a monster in that slot.
Love him in the slot.
Yoshiva's playing the slot, maybe eventually when T. Higgins decides to come back, and maybe if Jamar Chase is happy. What are we doing with this Bengals passing attack?
Well, we're buying. We're buying low right now. I think there's so much surrounding this team going into the game that you had to be, no, don't do that, Raider fan, please. You have to have expected that. Number one, you had an emotional Patriots team trying to win it for their first year head coach. Number two, you had Joe Burrow, who had no idea which wide receiver was going to show up. 3 days before the game, T. Higgins felt as good as he's ever felt, and then he was out. Jamar Chase may not play, might play limited, might not, might sign a contract, might not. This was a hot mess that you should expect a little bit. It's a huge buying opportunity for us.
Jamar Chase showing up an hour before the inactive announcement tells you everything you need to know about how sure he was going to play, right? I mean, come on, man. He wasn't even this thing is it's a hot mess there, man. It's really nerve-wracking. We'll see how it goes. But you should look at it. Listen to Mike Fiala, people, at Daddy's Home on the X Machine. Don't panic. These are buying opportunities, right? This is a long season. What is this week is not going to be next week. And over time, there's going to be an evolution, and all the things, many of the things, like I always talk about this game as being like a game of the fantasy portion of this. We tell ourselves a lot of happy stories over the course of an off season to convince ourselves that the players we love or should be drafted where we draft them. We tell ourselves horrible stories about the players we think we're not interested in. The people who succeed in this game are the people who can talk themselves out of their narrative the fastest, right? The people who say, oh, look, I was wrong. I better make a pivot, right? But you shouldn't like be diving in and out. You shouldn't be making panic moves. You should be making adjustments. So because of the guy you like, look, I have a lot of Zamir White. I'm not happy with the way it went week 1. I'm not sure it's going to get better for me, but that doesn't mean I'm going to go dump Zamir White. I'm going to find other paths to success until I figure out what Zamir White is, but until I figure out how wrong I am. But until I figure that out, dial back a little bit on Zamir White. So it's just like, it's not hitting the panic button, but it's making adjustments and being willing to bail on a narrative that clearly isn't working out the way you wanted it to work out. So we can work this out, people. It's going to be all right. Let's go to the running back position because there's a few of them. J.K. Dobbins, first and foremost. Those 2 long runs, 46 to 61 yards, his longest runs since 2020. I'm guessing he's healthy. And if they're pretending they're going to play the hot hand, I'm thinking his is smoking hot, and it's going to take a while to cool off. And I'm sorry, all my Gus Edwards shares. You're going to be chilling on my bench for a while.
And I love that take. Chilling on your bench. Do not drop Gus Edwards. What we saw is the Chargers can and will be running the football. What we also saw is a guy coming off an Achilles and knee injury looking good. We have seen this before with James Robinson. If you remember week 1, when James Robinson came back from his Achilles, everyone says he looks great. He looks like the old guy. I'm all the way back in. And now we saw what happened. I want every good thing to happen to J.K. Dobbins. However, we have seen this in the past from him. We've seen the injury proneness. So play the hot hand, play J.K. Dobbins right now, but do not drop Gus Edwards.
That is the truth of the story. Tank Bigsby. The drum beats have been coming, man. So I work with Mike Dempsey. You'll hear him on the Daily Update podcast with me every morning, or at least Tuesdays through Fridays. I do Monday solo, people, and it's glorious. But the days with Dempsey are good too. Seriously. But Dempsey works, covers the Jaguars on a daily basis. We talked about Tank Bigsby a lot last year. This is the kind of workload we saw this week is what they hoped for last year. Look, like they don't want Travis Etienne getting 70+% of the running back touches. It was a little concerning, though, that he was getting early down work, Bigsby, and then I don't even want to say that ETN fumble was like the most perfect punch I've seen on a football in a long time. I mean, somewhere Peanut Tillman went, what? Like that was delightful. So, but Bigsby looks to me like it's going to be a legitimate role. Wow. Is he worth digging into your fab budget significantly for?
He is, yeah. He's definitely a 50% type player. Our friend Sigmund Bloom, I saw a tweet out that Travis Etienne lost the most value in Dynasty of any player over this past week, and I'm starting to agree. When you take a look at Travis Etienne, he did a lot with the volume, but his efficiency wasn't there. And what we saw from Tank Bigsby was decisiveness. We saw him putting his foot down and going, and we saw efficiency. I love to see that. I can definitely see this becoming a split backfield. And here's what I'm going to say, Bob, just to needle the audience a little bit. I think Tank Bigsby is what y'all expected Blake Corum to be. Enjoy the ride.
We have some Blake Corum questions, and we're going to get to those here in a minute here. Fred Warner did have, he did. That was a great place game. These guys are practicing that clearly. This is not an accident.
And let's be clear. I mean, Breece Hall's lost 2 fumbles in his career. If you can get Breece Hall to fumble, you've done something right. Well played, Fred Warner. Just an unbelievable player.
Yeah, very well done. So another guy that kind of, I think he kind of caught us by surprise. Justice Hill, the workload in the passing game. Clearly, it's not going to be Derrick Henry. And also, don't panic on Derrick Henry, man. 13 carries is not going to kill you every now and again. And this is going to be a ramp up over the course of time, and they're going to have leads more often than not. So don't worry about that. But Justice Hill is going to have a role, I'm guessing, in the passing attack. Is it going to be significant enough for you to keep him on as a bench piece, and maybe his use as a guy when we hit the buys who can help you avoid a 0 in PPR?
So if you're friends with Linda Godfrey, you already have Justice Hill on your roster. She's been banging that drum forever. However, what I want you to do for all of these running backs is I want you to get familiar with betting lines. And the reason for it is if they're favored, Derrick Henry is an RB1. If they are the underdog, Derrick Henry is an RB2 and Justice Hill is a flex play. It is guaranteed that that's how it plays out. And if you take a look at the way that Derrick Henry has scored his points over the past few years, as he is getting older, he's getting up there in age, he is a front runner. And what you have to love about Derrick Henry is you get the Raiders next week. This is a huge Derrick Henry week. So if you pick up Justice Hill, this is not the week to play him. And this is the week to ride Derrick Henry. If you have one of those one and done leagues, this is the which Fantasy Cares is running one right now. Nice plug there. Derrick Henry's a great play this week, but you should be looking at the betting lines and you should be playing Derrick Henry on the weeks that they're favored. And there's a lot of those coming up on the schedule.
And I hope everyone's having a good time here. Our new Tuesday night show on the Audible. It's called The Hot Seat. It's hosted by me. I'm Bob Harris. I'm quite old and mean-spirited. Get used to it. It's not going anywhere. No, we're going to have a great time here. We're going to talk waiver wires a lot on Tuesdays. I'm going to bring in a great guest like Mike Fiala. You know him from DLF football, JWB, the producer of the Podathon. Probably my favorite, like I watched the whole damn thing. You know, I watched the whole damn thing because I'm like in the chat like 3 a.m. Oh, what about that?
I think you were up for more of it than I was, Bob. I had to get some sleep at some point.
Probably so. Glad you're joining us here. I hope you enjoy this every week. And again, I see the questions coming in. We'll spend the last portion of the show racing through your questions and hitting as many as we can. So prepare yourself, people. It's coming. Bucky Irvin.
Electric Factory. What else do you want to talk about? This guy is electric. He was in Oregon. And man, if I have a lot of Rachaad White, which I did up until today, like we talked about, I started selling away different things. This is a guy who is absolutely electric. What's going to be the knock on him is the same thing we talked about with Jahmyr Gibbs coming out. He's 195 pounds, so he doesn't hit these spreadsheet guys' 200-pound limit. If he had 2 cheeseburgers, he would have. I think we're close enough to be okay. He's a little bit of a smaller back, but he is absolutely electric. And I love these two together, and I love what they bring to the table for Baker Mayfield, who we're going to talk about in a minute. But overall, when I take a look at Bucky Irving, I do think this is not a flash in the pan. He's going to carve out a role, and I love that for him. And he is a threat to take it to the house every time he touches the ball. So get in on Bucky Irving before the price goes up any further.
I don't disagree with that. Like Bucky Irvin, the thing that's funny is he's not that big, he's not that fast, but he's very good. And like I was talking to some people who covered the Buccaneers earlier this offseason, and a lot of the impression was initially that Bucky Irvin was the message to Rachaad White to hit the hole. Quit dancing around, man. Fair. Time to get busy. And my highest owned player in best ball, I can't remember the percentage, but it's Anthony Richardson. It's not even close.
Of course.
And probably the next guy is Jaleel McLaughlin. It's like that running back 50 price was more than I could, was impossible for me to back up. And that was the next guy on my list, Trouble 12. Alexander Madison. I tried not to talk about him because did I mention I like Zamir White? Go ahead.
It's weird. Didn't someone tell you not to like Zamir White?
Nobody told me that.
Like I thought it was like 3 or 4 weeks ago on the radio.
Nobody told me that.
Because I heard you and Dempsey the second I came off the show telling me how wrong I was, and here we are, the consequences of our own actions. Alexander Madison is a guy who is going to show this every once in a while, but we know what he is, and the Raiders are not good enough to sustain a guy who's going to pick up that type of value. I don't expect him to get 6 targets. I don't expect him to be that big of a factor in the passing game. In fact, I think that Dylan Lobby is going to work more into the passing game moving forward. So Alexander Madison is the classic week 1 fool's gold. Let someone else spend their fab on him.
Yeah, I'm probably with you there. But I'm not dropping Zamir White. I don't care how bad you want me to. It's not going to happen.
I don't want you to drop him. I want you to have him on your bench, and I want you to look at him and think of me every time. And remember, Fiala told me a month in advance.
I thought Gesicki was that guy.
I know you
did. Was that guy.
I know. Well, now we have two. I love this for us. It's just helping our relationship grow.
All right, let's roll through the quarterbacks here real quick so we can get some questions. Baker Mayfield must pick up.
100%. He should have been on the waiver wire to begin with.
Sam Darnold.
You gotta like it. I mean, you're talking
San
about
Francisco this week, right? Though, I mean,
he's
maybe
not.
We get a dose of reality.
He's not a start, but but what we have is the second that JJ McCarthy hurt his knee, Sam Darnold became the guy throwing to Justin Jefferson. That's all you need to know. He's a great bench play and matchup play. Not San Francisco, but moving forward, matchup to matchup, I'd be looking at him for sure.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. And by the way, you know, we always have the concerns about the great receivers playing with lousy quarterbacks. I don't have those concerns. Everybody who's been to any of my live streams or listening to me on the radio knows this. Adam Thielen will tell you the same thing. Last year, being quarterback, wide receiver 12 over the first 12 weeks, playing with Bryce Young, literally the worst quarterback ever. Like, at least in the modern era. So Malik Neighbors fans like me, relax. I think Daniel Jones and Drew Lock will cobble together a slightly better than Bryce Young season. Also, though, it's reasonable to remember Justin Jefferson last year, the last 5 games, he was wide receiver 3 when he came back from his injury. Who was he playing with? Josh Dobbs, Jaron Hall, and Nick Mullins. I mean, miracles do happen. So be happy, people. Jameis Winston. These are like, you know, kind of proactive moves here. 2 of them, Jameis Winston and Michael Penix Jr.
Winston, no, absolutely not. I think that, at least from what I'm hearing, that I don't think they're in love with Jameis Winston, and I don't love that offense. Michael Penix, absolutely yes. What we saw from Kirk Cousins, I'm not really worried about the rust. It's not the rust that I saw. I saw some tweets, and I'd love to give them credit. I can't think of who actually saw that, cut the video, but what you saw is him favoring his leg. That's the concern for me. Not being able to push off of that right leg is going to make it impossible for him to be a player. I'm not going to be surprised if Atlanta falls out of the playoff race quickly and they at least rest Kirk Cousins to get him healthy. He's not right now, and that concerns me.
Yeah, the majority, though, they ran out of the pistol like how many times?
92%.
92% of the time, but Kirk Cousins has done that like 3 times his entire life. So, and I'm exaggerating, yeah. So, and Matt Waldman feels like this in a big way and has felt like this for a while. We can remember all the angst when the Falcons drafted Michael Penix, and probably had they pulled off that trade to get an edge rusher a short time later, people would have been a little less upset about it. But I think at some point, from a fantasy perspective, I don't care if they're pass rushing. I care if they have a quarterback who can fuel the fires of Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and Bijan Robinson. That's all I care about. All right. We've been through the court. Anyone else you like that we didn't hit on that you feel like we must touch on?
Not really. I mean,
I exhausted them.
Yeah, you can speculatively add Tannehill as a guy who maybe gets a shot. I think he might be, at least from what I've been told by friends, might be more likely to be the Browns starter if something happened to Watson over Winston. Obviously, we didn't get him in Green Bay because of the short term of Jordan Love's injury, but he's someone that's getting a look. He's a guy maybe in a really, really deep league. I'm talking 35, 40 plus man rosters. Throw him in your bench and hope that there's some news. And honestly, trade him the second that you get a panic move. But remember, he's a guy who runs a little bit too. He's not just a pocket passer. So that's the only guy I'm thinking in extremely deep leagues.
Yeah, fair enough. Can any of you assign my probation officer proving that I'm here? Yes, I have given you my digital signature. Okay, let's get some questions. Who to drop? Josephus, Corum, or Estime? Strong at wide receiver and have Kyron and Jaleel.
Yeah, I think it really depends on who you're picking up, but I think Yeshivas is probably the guy. And the reason why I say that is we're talking about, scarcity at the position. Corum and Estime maybe one injury away from being starters. Yeshivas, when Higgins is healthy, are you really going to be able to trust him? So that's the guy, because when you talk about Kyron and Jaleel, a little less certain. And there's no way I'm dropping Corum if I have Kyron, and that's a guy I'm relying on.
100% agree with that. Hey, so a Raider fan since 1967, you kids, has Njoku. Who should he pick up if he doesn't get Likely? Hill, Henry, Pennington, Conklin, or Kraft?
Man, if you don't get those guys, the 2 names that I'm looking at are Colby Parkinson with the injury.
By Pennington, I'm betting you.
Okay, Parkinson. Yeah, if you don't get him, then man, Zach Ertz, maybe. I guess I don't know if he's going to be available to you.
I think we both like Conklin an awful lot, though, right? Like
I love Conklin and Hill. So if I don't get these guys, I think what I'm reading here, and correct me if I'm wrong, Raider fan, I'm reading that these guys are not available to you. So if you're looking at me to go deeper than those guys, then it's Zach Ertz, Juwan Johnson, and man, I guess maybe we're getting down to the Jatavian Sanders and hoping that he breaks out.
He's the starter.
Yeah.
Noah Fant.
Yeah, Noah Fant, maybe. Yeah. I mean, if you don't get these guys, you're probably playing matchups. And that's where I'm going to be following Coupe Fiasco, who gives me all of my matchup information on Twitter.
I'm not going to give anything away, but my pros with Joe's team, some of the guys that you just mentioned might be in my queue right now.
That's bottom of the barrel, but they're good enough.
It totally is. What can you do? Let's see. David T-Law or Herbert has Herbert too. Is Fields worth a pickup?
Yes. Yeah, Fields is potentially a QB1 if he's starting, and right now you have to wonder when. Yeah, you have to wonder when he's going to come back. And I'm just seeing Bob Raiders fans said those guys are available. If I'm picking up any of them that he listed, Isaiah Likely 1, Hunter Henry 2, Tyler Conklin 3.
100%. That is the correct answer. All right. So we had and I appreciate everyone sticking around, waiting for the questions portion of the show. I know you were waiting a long time, Eric. For those who have Mason but aren't the CMC owner, hold or try to sell him to the CMC owner, contemplating a trade, sending him and Dontavian Wicks for Brian Thomas Jr., a sexy play, and Bucky Irving. Is that all too low or too much?
In Dynasty, I would be sending that and breaking my phone how quickly I'd be hitting send before they decided not to. If you're talking redraft, Eric, that's right about where it's supposed to be. I think when you're talking a longer term, I think Brian Thomas is going to be the guy who emerges from that. I think Bucky Irving and Mason are going to end up about similar value in redraft, and we talked about Dontavian Wicks early. So in redraft, good trade. In Dynasty, absolutely smash trade.
Let's see what we have here. Superflex, Young as the QB2. Who has better value, Jameis or Drew Lock or some other backup?
Oh, man. Drew Lock. Out of these two, I'm going to go Drew Lock. I want Jameis to be a thing. I don't think he's going to be.
If you think Jameis is going to be a thing without offensive tackles, he's probably not.
That's fair.
They get their offensive tackles healthy. Maybe he'll have a chance.
So I'm trying to think, Bob, is there anybody else? I'm trying to figure out anybody else in the backup world that I would even.
I mean, we talked about Penix.
Penix probably is a guy, obviously.
Right. I mean, I think that's the big speculative play, right? He's got the great weapons. We like the scheme. There's a lot to like there, but we've got to make sure that Kirk Cousins is really as horrible as it, or as dire as it appears, and it does appear kind of dire.
And I'm going to throw this out there just because I don't know, Modog, your league. So if it laugh at me if this isn't legit. If you think Drake May's a backup, absolutely, that's the guy.
Right. I laugh at you a lot. I didn't laugh at you this time, though. Wants to pick up Bigsby, drop Ray Davis or Jalen Wright. Let's talk quickly on Jalen Wright because I know there were some questions out there. Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane did not practice today. That's 2 days. It's a short turnaround game. I'm not reading too much into it. They get on the field tomorrow and they get a questionable designation. My guess is they'll play. But I'm also guessing Jalen Wright will be active, whether they're active or not. He was a healthy scratch the first game. We saw a lot of Jeff Wilson Jr. Do you feel like I feel? Oh, do we feel the same? That this was more of a special teams play, like, Wilson is playing special teams, Wright was not or isn't. And so they just left him on the bench thinking they had enough depth there. And if there was something to go wrong, we would maybe see Jalen Wright move into kind of the Achane Jr. role, or the bigger Achane.
Yeah, I think Jalen Wright is the handcuff for both of these players. I think when they're both healthy, you can see Jalen Wright potentially getting the scratch, specifically for what you said, Bob. It's a special teams play, and Jeff Wilson's a very good special teams player. So when you look at Jalen Wright, I look nothing into his week one scratch and have any concerns. If I'm looking at a play this week, if either of those guys are out, I am putting Jalen Wright ahead of Jeff Wilson on my waiver wire claims. I'm going for the home run hitter, who I believe since day one is the true handcuff. I like both.
I drafted a lot of him.
Yeah,
so my BP, Ryan,
well, but to answer the question, drop Ray Davis for Tank Bigsby. Sorry, the Ray Davis to drop there.
Because Josh Allen is always going to be Ray Davis, right?
Yeah, of course. Buffalo running backs are always going to hurt you.
Yeah. So Samaje Perine, your thoughts on him?
I don't really have many.
Have
to
one.
be honest,
Give me one. I like okay. Samaje Perine versus Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who's obviously on the non-football injury list, won't be around for. Who would you rather play if both were available?
Perine, he's actually done something.
Right.
Okay. But are you ever going to feel comfortable playing Perine if Pacheco's healthy?
Unless we get to that point where he plays a Jerick McKinnon-like role.
Oh, and I love Jet. I almost wish they would bring him back because he'd be better than Perine. But yeah, if he plays that role, sure. But again, even with Jet, who was a better version of Samaje Perine, I don't see it. I mean, they brought in Perine, I think, more so, Bob, because he's a great pass blocker more than he is a pass catcher.
Right. I mean, but he can catch and he can run a little bit. We'll see. I mean, like I wouldn't mind rostering him right now with no Clyde Edwards-Helaire and I don't know, not anything else on the roster. I don't like to, wish cast anybody having a setback of any nature, but were something to happen, Samaje Perine would all of a sudden have a ton of contingent upside dumped into his lap, and that would be a thing. But you'd have to have a deep enough roster. This looks like a lineup question, but we'll answer it anyway. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's a roster question. Go ahead. Let's pretend it's a roster question.
Oh, man, I'll tell you, before Thursday night, I would have said Hollywood by an absolute mile. I'm still going to lean Hollywood very slightly. I think Sutton's going to get more targets, Ricky, but like we talked about with Bo Nix, those targets might only be 3 yards. I'm going to go Hollywood Brown. I'm going to go with the better quarterback and go with the guy who has shown talent. But, man, Rashee Rice and Worthy look pretty good. I think Worthy looked better than I hoped he was going to, Hollywood Brown. But I do think I'm going to go with the better offense, the more high-powered offense, and the guy who's shown a little more, breakaway speed, a little more big playability, and go Hollywood Brown. But it is super close. Like it's probably back-to-back in my rankings.
When the number after the 4 is a 2 and the 40 speed, I can't resist. I don't care. It's like Matt Wallman calls the speed the cleavage of the NFL, and eyes are not up when I hear those.
Like the Al Davis of the fantasy world. I love it.
I am. I'm the worst, man. There's 2 things you can't coach, kids. It's size and speed. Sutton has half of that. Brown has the other half. I like the other half better. All right. So I think we kind of covered this. Pick up Jeff Wilson Jr. Would you pick him up if he was available at all?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think I'd pick him up and I would put him as a speculative ad right now. Take a look at what the injury report looks like. I'll be honest, what if we're wrong and they still scratch Jalen Wright? I mean, Jeff Wilson has been productive when he gets the ball. He knows the offense. He's done good things for Mike McDaniel. He followed him there. I mean, there's history there.
Didn't do any of them on my Scott Fishbowl roster last year, though.
Of course not. But the second you put him on his bench, that's when Jeff Wilson shows up. So definitely pick him up, speculative ad. But if all of them are healthy, Jeff Wilson goes to your bench. If Jalen Wright is not a healthy scratch, he's above him. If either Mostert or Devin Achane plays, then I'm not playing Wright or Wilson in my lineup.
When it's running backs, I like a 3 after the 4. I'm fine with that. And
that's
Wright
fair.
Has one of those. Wright has one of those.
And
210 pounds.
Little bigger boy. Yeah, he's over that threshold. He ate the cheeseburger.
Nobody's catching any of the Dolphins from behind. Let's just go ahead and say that, except Jeff Wilson Jr. So Corum, 6-man bench, 12-team PPR. Is he still a stash or drop him for a 1 week or 2 week hotness waiver wire option?
No, he's still a stash. I mean, realistically, they drafted him to be like the prototype of Kyren Williams, who we've seen get injured in the past as recently as last year. You did not draft Blake Corum to play him this week. No matter what Twitter told you, I don't care that Kyren Williams is returning punts. He can stand under a punt and fair catch it and still go in on first down. That was never going to be an issue. But what I do love, and what you should love, Waffles, as someone who has Blake Corum, is that Sean McVay goes with one running back throughout the game. So if Kyren Williams were to go down, that becomes Blake Corum. So hold him, keep him, love him, but don't play him if Kyren Williams is healthy.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We're gonna save that clip. Clip that. I don't care. By Mike Fiala. I don't care. The story of Fiala's life. This is interesting. I haven't had any super flex questions until up at this very point. Tight end premium, 10-man. 10-man league. Okay. Hurts, Caleb Williams, and Watson. I'm with you there on that. 30 to 40, 50% on Sam Darnold in that circumstance.
I'd go higher than that. The fact is, you're in a super flex league and there's a quarterback available. I'd be going
it's
higher.
It's a 10-team, though.
It's a 10-team, sure, but you're still talking about.
You got a starting quarterback. I'm with you.
Yeah, it's a starting quarterback. All 32 should be rostered, including Daniel Jones, as sick as that might make you. So I'd be doing whatever I needed to get Sam Darnold on my team, regardless of what your roster looks like.
I think that is fair. Let's see here. I can't even say that. That's not even English.
Epic fail. Epic fail if you turn the story around.
You young people know how to do all this. I'm like struggling a little bit. Would you use your number one waiver priority to pick up likely if you own Kyle Pitts or hold it? Full PPR, no premium, but drop Khalil Herbert.
Full send epic fail. Absolutely pick up Isaiah Likely as your number one waiver priority and be happy, man. That is a absolute wasteland of a position, and you have a athletic freak who will be a good play if Andrews is healthy and a great play if Andrews gets hurt.
Interesting question by Mr. Lester Fremont.
I would say arguably the greatest of all time, Lester, if we go by last week.
Evan Ingram apparently not. Evan Ingram on the field for 26 snaps. Off the field for pretty much every running play. It was like only on the field for when they throw the ball 21, 24, 25 times, something like that. It was crazy. So I asked Dempsey this: is this a game script issue, or is this something we should expect? And look, we didn't see a lot of Christian Kirk either. I think some of this was what was it, like 180,000 degrees in Miami with 99% humidity or something. So they were switching guys in and out awful lot, but that was a worrisome number for Ingram.
Worrisome number, sure. Worrisome long-term, absolutely not. You had a really weird game, a very weird script. You had Jacksonville up early. They were grinding it out, trying to get through the heat. I'm not worried about him at all.
Dang it. Almost had to do a sorry job. I'm getting better at this all the time. All right, everybody, we're going to wrap this one up for today. Appreciate you sticking around for about an hour of this nonsense, and we'll be doing this every Tuesday night. I'll have a great guest. I don't know if they'll all be as great as Mike Fiala. You should be following him at Daddy's Home FF on the X device. You should be reading his work at DLF Football, at JWB, at Fantasy Football. He's associated with the Fantasy Cares. They're good people. They let him do the pod-a-thon. He lines up all the guests, and he's very good at it. Does fantastic work. So check him out, follow him, and hit him up. He's great with answering the questions as well. Just don't ask him about tight ends named Mike Gesicki because you might not like the answer.
Oh, you can. The answer is always no.
We have a long history of this. Appreciate everyone showing up. Again, I'll be back on which defense or Colts or the Cops who are like.
You clicked on the question. You have to answer it now.
I'm not sure I do. I'll be back on Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. We'll just sit here and chop it up, talk about lineup questions, anything else that comes to your mind. It's Ask Me Anything. Music, food, pets, football, you name it. We'll be here for it. And I appreciate y'all coming. I appreciate y'all making a little room for me on Sig and Cecil's channel. Again, you can find my work at Football Guys. The Fantasy Notebook will be out on Thursdays. My In and Out column will be out on Fridays. I'm doing a collaboration with Gary Davenport. We're doing some polarizing players and trying to sort things out. Drums, Dame. Yes, we can talk about my drums. I might even set them up if you're not careful. And also catch me on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 10 to midnight with Mike Dempsey. You can find me on Saturdays on NFL Radio and the Fantasy Channel from 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern Time. We take a lot of calls, people with lineup questions. Sunday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time, the pregame show with Jeff Mans. We don't take many calls there, maybe one. But we do cover a lot of information, give you all the inactives, give you some good information in real time. So we hope you check that out. And also every morning, 5:30 a.m. it comes out, the Football Guys Daily Update podcast on the Audible channel. It's just audio. It's me and Mike Dempsey Tuesday through Friday, giving you a 10-minute dose of everything you need to know to start your day right from a fantasy perspective. On Mondays, I hit just the injuries from the Sunday games to kind of get you up to speed and help you figure out some of the people you need to get on your list here. It'll be fantastic, and we'll see you then on Saturday. I love you. Goodbye.